now we figured, it's baseball season. The Braves are on. I'm not that big of a baseball fan. I haven't been it since I used to play way back when I was yay big, before this whole film nonsense started. But I thought, in the spirit of the season, we should talk about our favorite baseball movies.
And the Braves first win. Go Braves.
Doubleheader, and they won 2 games in a row. Ooh. Let's see how long that lasts.
Not that long.
Well, remember, we live in Georgia. Every sports team chokes. So, Zack, what is one of your favorite baseball movies?
Probably one of my top 5 is definitely going to be, gotta go with the Disney stuff, Angels in the Outfield.
Yes.
It's okay, I grew up, my mom was very religious, so when there was a movie that came out that had angels in the title, I didn't have to say, like, hey, Mom, I gotta, like, explain why I want to go see the film. I could just say, hey, Mom, the title of the film is Angels in the Outfield, and you're like, perfect, let's go! I was just going, like, that's one of the reasons why I liked it, but it's just going, like, the cast that was in there is great. You had a great story. It was very heartwarming, and that's kind of what all sports things is like, you have the struggle, you have the triumph, and you have the big celebration at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's another one I used to grow up watching in the 90s. Yeah, I mean, Disney put it out. It was always on TV. I was glad the VHS caught me. But I didn't realize until getting older how many actors started out in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like Matthew McConaughey, Adrian Brody. I mean, when I saw them in the movie, I was like, whoa.
Look,
wait a minute.
Disney used to be a heavy hitter before Disney Plus.
Yes. And then I think you got like Christopher Lloyd, who was known, Danny Glover, and a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I really think that was like his first or second film. And the adoption person was the woman in Home Alone 2, the old lady, homeless woman. So, same actor in there. Yeah, good movie. Tony Danza was in there too. Christopher Lloyd was funny. Memorable.
Yep, very much.
I think they made a sequel to that.
Yeah, I think they made 2 direct to VHS.
I've never seen them. So.
Look, when the original's so good, you don't mess with it at all. Don't mess with it. So what's your number 5?
My number 5 is For the Love of the Game. Kevin Costner, John C. Reilly, his teammate, J.K. Simmons playing the coach. The actress, Kelly Preston, playing the girlfriend, who Kelly Preston just died last summer. Directed by our very own Sam Raimi, who went on to do the Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire. I like it. Very human, like drama. Like got an older baseball player, trying to deal with the game and having a life outside of the game and trying to balance them two. And, I enjoy it. Good. Like, oh, Kevin Costner doing another baseball movie.
Yeah, there was a stretch when baseball movies were like the thing to do.
Yeah. I don't know where they've gone, but but yeah, that's my number 5. What's your next pick?
Okay, my number 4 pick is going back to Disney, of course. Rookie of the Year. Okay, I don't know why, but it was just always so funny to see the young kid playing in the grown-up game and what it was, and just the ridiculousness of how he got there. He hurt his arm, and all of a sudden he could throw really fast, type of stuff. And it was just like, and then at what I love about the movie is actually the very end is what I love about it the most. When he falls down, he hurts his arm again, and all of a sudden he can't throw fast. Yeah. And they have to get through that inning with using all the tricks. That was actually my favorite part of the entire film.
You got Gary Busey in there. He's like the main professional player. Oh, about to retire. Doesn't like the kid. Doesn't know why the kid is on the team. He thinks it's all a gimmick. I forget the other guy who played one of the robbers in Home Alone, played the funny guy with always chewing gum and, getting into, shenanigans.
Right.
I only remember that movie in the backyard scene. They're playing ball, and the mom comes home. He has groceries in her hand, and he's like, the kid is like, Mom, watch! And he, rears his arm back, and you see his friend, like, run out of the way.
Yeah.
And then he throws it.
And just and the sound effects that they used for it, it was in like an elastic band where you heard like, Pew! That was always that was just peak 90s goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, and that actor went on to be in the American Pie movies, playing Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
So, there you go there. So, my number 4 would be Hardball. Keanu Reeves, Diane Lane, Josh Hope. It came out like 2002. I just remember the movie because, A, Keanu Reeves was hot at the time, with Matrix and The Replacements, Speed, so he was, the go-to guy. And young Michael B. Jordan is in that movie. He's the one that is like, he's like, no, I'm good at this, I don't need you. He quits the team, then comes back. So yeah, Michael B. Jordan was in it. Tiki, Josh Hudson, when a man needs frack, or the famous, G-Baby, putting your hands up in the air. I love you when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air if you're true player. So, yeah, great. Not the best baseball movie, but, I think you get a lot of quotes from the movie, you get famous songs, good acting, and kind of a sad movie too. If you see in the end, it is a sad movie also.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but the key things about most of these stuff is that they're memorable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're able to they use the game. The game's not really like the point of it. They're using the game and the rules and all that other stuff to make memorable and dramatic moments. Like that's the key there. So that's why for me, number 3 is definitely going to be Moneyball, because that's where you kind of delve more into like the science of the game and all that stuff. And I'm not like good with like actually remembering like, oh, this person has blank RBIs or his stuff like that. So that's why I love watching that stuff, because I'm just going like, that's the stuff that I just like gloss over when I go to games. I want to see the hits, I want to see the strikeouts and all that stuff.
It was a good movie. I mean,
oh, really good. And it was like the way that they told it was all about like how they showed it, and they go like, oh, you would assume here we're putting together this method, and then it's not like they all of a sudden started being the greatest team that ever lived. That they showed the struggles that the team had, and that's where sports comes in. It's just going like you're cheering for a team and you don't know. It's like you think that you have something that's going to get you the win, and then that might not at the very end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great movie. You had a great cast. Brad Pitt, he got nominated for that movie. Jonah Hill got his first Oscar nomination.
Yeah, and I think Jonah Hill had like a breakout role with that, because he had like a couple jokes here and there, but he was a much more serious character in that.
Philip Seymour Hoffman played the coach, and I bet a lot of people forget this. Chris Pratt was the baseball player they were looking at. Very early Chris Pratt.
And I think he wasn't the first baseman, right?
I think so.
He was the first baseman who was having a hard time doing it or whatever. His character had played a different position, and they came up and said, "We want you to play first base," and he was going like, "What?"
And yeah, and that's the movie too. You mentioned Jonah Hill, but even Chris Pratt, he's not the comedian, he's not the comic relief. He plays a serious character.
Right.
And it did show his more dramatic chops that, helped him along the way. Which I would like to see him go back to that more, too. I like him as Peter Quill and everything, but I would like to see more of a dramatic turn.
Because he can do it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is that he's so good at doing it. That it's like, dude, do that. I think Chris Pratt, if he took a more serious role and did it, I think, him in Oscar contention is easy.
Oh, yeah. Down the road? Sure. My number 3 is Field of Dreams. I mean, I think this is like a no-brainer when you think of baseball films. I mean, once again, Kevin Costner again. I mean, that movie has so many great lines.
Mm-hmm.
If you build it, they will come. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Great shot film, the cinematography on the sunset, sunrise, on the farm and on the cornfield, and then the baseball field when it's all built. Plus you got, you got Kevin Costner in there. You got Ray Liotta in there. And then, of course, James Earl Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going to get to it later, but this was like a 1-2 punch for James Earl Jones in baseball movies. And he, once again, delivers a great monologue, about, people coming to the field. People will line up, Ray. People will come. They'll sit out there.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that, sports is kind of lost right now is, and hopefully with everything coming back, with us coming out of the pandemic and stuff like that, and trying to get back to normal and some of that stuff. I think that one of the biggest things that's going to be around is definitely going to be the live experiences, and sports is a big part of that. So I'm hoping to see a big resurgence in sports.
Yeah.
And the interest in sports, so that way, and more so going to the sports live, not just going to the bar to go watch it, but going to get out and to be a part of it, and then that can hopefully then turn around and inspire more baseball, football, hockey, soccer, whatever. I want more films about this stuff because the stories that are told in sports is are such very simplistically narrative in the fact of just it's not a life or death situation. Most of the time, people make it, but it's it's a very kind of overcoming the odds. There's a clearly defined evil, not really evil, but antagonist.
Yeah, I mean every one of these movies there's some villain somewhere in the movie.
Right, but they're not. Most of these villains, except for my next pick, are not really villains. They're antagonists. They're not evil. They're just the antagonists of the movies. And I think that's the other good thing about it is that most of these films, when you come out at the end of it, that's the point is sports is supposed to bring people together. Yes, we might cheer for different teams, but it's all about unity.
Yeah, and one thing in Field of Dreams, me saying spoiler, the movie's 30 years old.
Yeah.
But the ending, I mean, it hits you.
Yes, it very much does.
When you're a kid, it might not have been, but when you get older and you have people pass away, it does. Obviously, people that have parents that pass away, you get to that ending and you go,
yeah,
it hits. You nailed it.
It hits and it hurts.
I mean, just that line, you wanna play, you wanna catch. Just that, it's oh, no. And you got the sun coming down and the music, and you're you want to say F you. Really, you want to be how did you get it so perfect? And they did. And that's why it's one of the most greatest baseball movies made. So what's your number 2?
My number 2 pick is 42, the Jackie Robinson biopic story. It was great. Not only is it a great movie, but it was filmed partly in Macon, Georgia, where now the field where that part of that movie was filmed, guess who plays there now? I'm wearing their jersey, the Macon Bacon, which is one of the greatest names in sports. At me. Macon Bacon are awesome. And just going there, I've been to several of their games. It's so much fun just going there. But 42 was a great film. I think it did great jobs. And this is one of the ones where you have a sports film that has a villain. And that villain is racism. It's embodied in several of the characters that are in there. And we're not going to get fully into that and the like because this is good stuff, man. The film was great because it showed the trials and struggles of Jackie Robinson, and they did it in a way, and they showed, the other players, how Jackie Robinson moved it, and his actions and how he went about the game. He went out to play the game and play it amazingly well. And it was, through that, everyone typed to realize, this is BS. And, you had that great moment at the end, and you showed his struggles and how he dealt with it, and then you got what sports films are about: unity. It's about unity. It's about coming together, and you had one of the greatest unity moments in that is like when coming together for that. And I think if they did a Hank Aaron movie just like 42, I would see that movie just hands down, just like over and over and over again.
Well, you also have a great cast. You had the late Chadwick Boseman, who was only beginning his career at that point. You had Harrison Ford playing the coach?
Yeah, or not the coach. Agent? I think the manager. The manager of the Dodgers.
Great role for him. You know, and Lucas Black was in there from like Fast and Furious.
Yeah, like that scene is something that I always remember. If the scene of where Lucas Black's character goes out and throws his arm around, Chadwick Boseman, and they just in there, and like everyone's like was booing that, and then they kind of just like it shut the entire crowd up. I thought that was a great scene of just going like, you got the two people out there. You kind of saw like from the beginning that Lucas Black's character was never like comfortable with like the way that Jackie was treated, but he as himself and as the character was like afraid to step into that spotlight. And then that one scene of how that scene was built up and how they went to it was great.
Alright, so my number 2 is a 90s classic. I don't know what child on earth has not seen The Sandlot. I mean, that is the movie growing up when it came to sports movies that I watched over and over and over.
See, that's why for me, I kind of like, I know there's sports in it, but it's like for me, I almost don't want to classify it as like a baseball movie. I classify it more as like in my head as just like a coming to life story because there's so much else besides baseball in there.
Yeah, I mean it's a coming of age story. It's almost like a Stand By Me, but throwing the baseball element in there.
Yeah.
Once again, a movie, when I said a 1-2 punch, James Earl Jones shows up in that movie by the third act. And once again, once he's on screen, he takes it over, just his voice,
Oh yeah, his presence really helped sell that entire, like, mysterious, guy who lives in the thing.
I mean, and you got like that, the voice is just, Hercules. I mean, it's like, yes.
Yes.
and then you look at the cast, not in terms of the actor, but the character. I mean, Smalls. I mean, when you say Smalls, most people know exactly who you're... I mean, and you got the great quote, you're killing me, Smalls.
And how they did it at the end was kind of how they told the story at the end of the film was really cool of how, just like cinematography wise, where they showed the kids that were playing the fall and then they kind of like faded the kid out of the shot and then like told what they did next.
Yeah,
and then who was it? We never heard from, what was the one kid? I forget his name. The kid that they never heard from again.
What?
Yeah.
The one who married the lifeguard?
I don't remember. But we never heard of him again.
But yeah, I mean, you're killing me, Smalls. You play more like a girl. The lifeguard scene, I mean, who cannot forget that? He looks like a fish.
And the scene in when they were at the fair and then they all started puking because they did spit.
Tequila. The song Tequila. Yeah, that, and then the kid's like, did you plan that? Yeah, I've been planning that for years. It's about time. But yeah, I mean, it's just, what do you mean you don't know his name? Babe Ruth. The Sultan of Slut, the King of Terror, the Colossus of Slut. Babe Ruth. The Great Bambino. Oh my God, that's the same guy? Yes. I mean, it's just iconic. You can't. I mean, if you don't know a line from that movie, I don't know who you are. That was my number 2, but now we're going to get to our number 1. And luckily, we both have the same number 1.
Yeah, we slightly planned this. The number 1 that we both put down is The Rookie.
The Rookie.
Which, Dennis Quaid, Really good. From teacher back to playing the game.
Jimmy Morris, that's the character that Dennis Quaid played. And yes, it's about the teacher who, always wanted to play baseball as a kid, and then life got in the way. He got married, he settled down, and he became a science teacher because he had to pay the bills. And then when he was in his 40s, he made a bet with his baseball team that, hey, you made it to the championship, because they were like 0 whatever in the last season, I'll try out for, the majors.
Mm-hmm.
Tried out, he got on the, whatever the step is before the majors, I don't know what they call it.
The minors.
The minors, right? That's how long it's been since I've followed baseball. And then, he went on to play Major League for 2 seasons. Yeah, you might say that's not long, but at the end of the day, it's like, how many people do you know that were in their 40s decided to say, you know what, I'm going to follow my dreams. I don't care how old I am, and I'm going to go all the way.
And succeeded. And I guess that's the key. There's the reason why this is the number 1 on our list is because this is the essence of baseball movies and sports movies in general, is that you have the trial, you have the insurmountable odds, and then you overcome it through unity.
Yeah, and, and it's not even just sports. The theme of the movie, follow your dreams, can be in any aspect of life. Anything you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how old you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do it, go after it.
And I think one of my favorite scenes from The Rookie is when he is out there by the car speed thing. It's like, you're going this fast. So, and then he's throwing the baseballs, and it's like he threw the last one that he had, and it wasn't like as fast as he wanted it to be, and then he walks away, and then all of a sudden, and they had that. I was going like, but then they did it. If I'm remembering this right, he didn't even realize this. It went away, so he didn't even realize how fast he threw it.
No.
And then it wasn't until like later he realized, oh, I threw that fast.
No, he never realized. It came up 76.
Yeah, and it turned to 96.
And then when he walked away, it showed up 96.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, but to me, it's the movie I remember being other than The Sandlot from 2002 when it came out. That's been the movie I watch every year. Mm-hmm. It's become more like my adult years of, like, my childhood was Sandlot, my teenage adult years of The Rookie. And I remember the line that Brian, great cast too, you got Rachel Griffiths in there as his wife, some of the younger kids, like the real funny kid, baseball player, was in the first Fast and Furious, who got shot. Mm-hmm. He was in there. The little boy, Angus, whatever, went on to be in like 2.5 Men. But Brian Cox played his father. And I remember the line that his father said about halfway through the movie when he was still on that line of, do I go play, do I not go play? Or he was thinking about coming back home. Mm-hmm. Because, the wife had bills to pay, whatever, and things weren't going the way he wanted it, And his father's like, Jimmy, sometimes in life, you gotta think, you need to start thinking about, like, maybe you need to start thinking about what I should do and what I was meant to do in life. It was like, it's kind of like that, but, just thinking like, at that point, like, maybe you're not supposed to be playing baseball. Maybe you're supposed to be doing something else. Mm-hmm. Like going home to your family and going back to teaching. But it was like that line of, like I said, maybe you're something you want to do, but maybe not something you're meant to do. And I think that's an interesting, that line, I know I'm off a little bit on it, but you can go watch the movie. But I personally have always taken that line as like my own journey. Like, am I supposed to be a filmmaker? Am I not supposed to be a filmmaker? Am I supposed to be doing something else? Am I not supposed to? And I've always like had Ryan Cox in the back of my head saying that. I'm like, well, Matt, maybe you're not supposed to be. or maybe you should be doing this, or maybe you're supposed to be. So, I don't know. I think that, I then take out the baseball part, I put it as a filmmaker for me and go, maybe I should be doing something else. Maybe this is not what I'm meant to do, what I want to do. So, it might also go, I'm 31 years old, Jimmy Morris was 40, I still got time.
You got a couple years before that happens.
So, if you like any of these tips, baseball season's here, go watch.
Go Braves.
And maybe go see some baseball games, now that things are going back to normal. And that's for you to decide if you want to go back to normal or not. I do.
So, you want to sit in isolation? Be our guests. I'm going to a game as soon as I can.
Me too.